In a small dusty town of Umudiegu, where the past lived loudly and the present whispered, the village had some age-old secrets. Festivals were louder than city traffic, filled with drums, chants, and goats that prayed not to be used for sacrifice. Umudiegu wasn't rich in gold, but in tradition. In this very town, there lived a very beautiful woman whose beauty made other women squint like they forgot their glasses and made men speak in tongues they didn't know existed. Her name was Oledo. Oledo was every man's dream, but she had eyes for only one man, Mazi Ndukakou. Like his name, Ndukakou, meaning life is better than wealth, was a very poor man who struggled to make ends meet. His belt had more holes than ambition, and his only asset was confidence. Ndukakou was the eldest of 5 orphaned brothers. Their parents had left the world too early, like a pot snatched off fire before the soup was even ready. And frankly, so were all their uncles. These boys were all alone in this world. Ndukakou grew up not with toys, but with responsibilities wrapped in palm leaves. He and his brothers slept on mats so thin they could feel the heartbeat of the ground. But through it all, Ndu led with quiet strength and brave confidence. He was father, mother at the same time. This was one of the many attributes that made Oledo fall head over heels with him. Ndu was a hunter who took his hustle very seriously. He always went hunting with his immediate younger brother, Okechukwu. On very few days, they made a kill. They sold some parts in the very popular Eke village market, while Ndu brought some for Oledo as gifts. However, Oledo's mom could never understand the reason why, out of every eligible young man in Umudiegu village, her beautiful daughter was hell-bent on marrying a nobody. "My daughter," Mama Oledo said, tying her wrapper to her chest like she was holding back frustration. "Love is sweet oh, but hunger will test your vowels." But Oledo only smiled, eyes full of romance, as Mama's words bounced off her like rain on zinc, loud, ignored, and soon forgotten. After all said and done, Oledo got married to the love of her life, Ndukakou. The first few years of their marriage was very fulfilling. As fate would have it, Oledo started giving birth, not with the grace of a dove, but rather like a hen, laying eggs. One after the other, sons popped into the world. She soon had 4 boys in a space of 6 years. Their family, although was not a wealthy one, but it was a happy one, and they all lived in peace until one day, Ndukakou went to hunt in the great forest as he usually would with his brother Okechukwu. They had hunted in these paths before, but today the forest felt different, tense, like the air before a storm. As they went deeper into the forest, a swift rustling broke the silence, and before they could react, a massive wild boar charged at them. Of course, they were caught off guard, and so, with one swift move, the boar turned and struck Ndukakou down. Heart pounding, Okechukwu ran. His brother's blood stained the earth. But he knew he couldn't stay. He fled with the speed of light, adrenaline pushing him faster than Usain Bolt could fathom. On getting to their compound, back in the village, Oke was almost breathless, looking like he just saw a ghost. Oledo ran out immediately. Fear and panic gripped her as she saw only Okechukwu. "Where is Ndu?" she asked, eyes filled with fear and anxiety. With shaking hands, Oke managed to speak, his voice breaking with grief. The boy, it took him. I couldn't save my brother." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Oledo froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Her heart sank as the reality of the news settled in. Her world crumbled in that moment. After a few weeks of burial preparations, Ndu was laid to rest. Things took a quick turn from then on. First, a strange illness befell Okechukwu, and he passed after all treatments failed. Then followed his next brother and the next one after him. And soon, it was only Oledo and her 4 sons remaining. Their family house felt haunted and unsafe. She packed her belongings and took her sons, who were now teenagers and preteens at this stage, and left the village of Umudiegwu because it seemed as if their family house was haunted. Soon, they settled in the small town of Odenta, taking life one day at a time. Oledo's second son, Obu, had a striking resemblance with his late father Ndu, and so was secretly Oledo's favorite son. He understood his mom and had the right things to say to make her think and worry less. "Mama, I will make you proud. Just help me fulfill these big dreams of mine by staying alive. Inugo?" Oledo would smile and he would watch her wrinkles fade away. On the other hand, Oledo's eldest son, Okonta, started learning a trade. At this time, he was almost 18 years of age. He went to the small market of Odenta and got acquainted with a very successful clothing material merchant named Igwe. Soon, Okonta became Igwe's favorite apprentice. Igwe would send Okonta to bigger cities like Aba to restock fabrics for his big shops. One fateful great Tuesday, Okonta boarded a rickety commercial bus to Aba to restock fabrics for his oga. He made this journey many times before, chasing business, chasing survival, but this time, fate rode along. Somewhere past Umweka Junction, the road was slippery from the early morning rain. The silly driver, reckless and eager to overtake a long trailer, lost control. In seconds, the bus somersaulted off the road and crashed. By the time passers-by gathered, Okonta was gone. His journey cut short. Like bad news always does, the news of his incident traveled fast. It reached his oga, Igwe, first, a man not easily shaken. But when he heard this, he sat down slowly, like someone whose legs could no longer trust the earth. Okonta? Chai! Arere! Soon, word reached his mother, and before they could finish narrating, she collapsed at her door. Next, wailing followed, raw, deep, and unrestrained. His siblings gathered, faces soaked in disbelief, asking questions no one could answer. But how? He was alive just this morning. Okonta's death disturbed his immediate younger brother Obu. more than anyone else because he had observed the death pattern in his family and strongly believed he was next in line. Obu had recently started learning mechanic as an apprentice in Odenta town. 2 years down the line, his oga settled him as he was already done learning. He used part of the money to rent a small space and started taking his own customers. When this happened, he came home one evening as they gathered for their simple basic dinner of native roasted yam with empty palm oil as the dip. Obu started with a chest full of hope and mouth full of promises. Mama, from now on, things will change. This is our breakthrough, Mama. Olido nodded and smiled because she believed that fate had smiled at them at last. However, instead of breakthrough, what came was breakdown, literally. The only steady thing at his workshop was the bench he slept on. Cars rarely showed up, and when they did, their owners would price the life out of him. And because he needed the money, he would collect whatever they priced. Just like weeds in rainy season, Obu's debts grew and grew. Every month, the landlord's knock on his workshop door sounded like Judgment Day. He tried everything: prayers, advice, fasting, and the likes. One day, he could not take it anymore. His problems were almost swallowing him, and the responsibilities of providing for his family as the now first son was seriously choking him. Amidst all this suffering lay a deep fear of death in Obu's heart. As a result of the consistent death pattern in his family, Obu resolved to travel back to his village to consult the chief priest of the gods to really understand what was going on, because it seemed as though he was next in line. On getting to the shrine of the greatest chief priest in Umudiegu, determined to get to the root of this death cancer in his family, Obu ventured in, a little afraid of what he might find out. On sighting him, the chief priest said, "Welcome, the great chosen one. Please have a seat." Obu was taken aback by this greeting, but decided to remain calm. He began, "Ezemo, I came here." Before he could even finish, the chief priest cut him off. "I know why you are here, and I have some answers and even some news for you." Obu kept quiet for a while before saying, I am really confused, Ezemo. Why did you call me the chosen one when I entered?" The chief priest laughed heartily before saying, "Listen very carefully, Obu. A very long time ago, way before your parents were even born, there was a great war between our land, Umudiegu, and our neighbor, Omonze. There was so much bloodshed and mass killings. It was so bad that at some point we were losing the battle. So, your forefathers, who were the warlords of their time, came to a strategy. They came to our gods, Isiogugu, for safety and protection. Isiogugu accepted to protect them and the land on one condition: that they buried a virgin girl alive." "What?" Obu shouted in disbelief and shock. "Oh yes," the chief priest continued. "They granted the request of Isiogugu, and a young pure girl of about 17 years was laid to rest alive. They promised to serve her as an oracle, to provide her with a servant in every generation to serve her and to offer her sacrifices when due. They offered to give her the first son of every generation. Mind you, this strategy worked and peace was restored in Umudiegwu community. But as time and years went by, we began to forget our own end of the bargain. We neglected the promise we made to take care of the oracle. And once the gods are angered, they do not look back. And so the oracle began to take every male child of your family, one after the other. She is also the sole reason things do not move well for you or any of your family members for that matter. Remember, the agreement was that the first sons born in your family would be offered to her as servants. But in your generation, she personally chose you, Ubu, to be her servant. Probably while you are still alive by now. The chief priest concluded. Ubu was dumbfounded and in fact in great shock of his life. He could not believe his ears. Was this a movie or what? He wondered. When he finally collected his thoughts together, he said, Ezemo, what if I say no? Because to be fair, I wasn't even there when such agreement was made. And this is certainly not what I want to use my life to do. Please, I beg you, plead with her for me. I am not interested. Ezemo laughed heartily. You have some balls, boy, I must say. Now I am starting to understand why she chose you personally. But, you see, when Ezenwanyi calls you, you do not say no. You do not say, give me some time to think. You simply say, when do I resume work? Because there is no refusing her call. She is not to be toyed with either. She is a very dangerous spirit. So, before you do anything, think deeply and rationally. The chief priest warned. After their very long discussion that day, Obu left Umudiegwu with his head spinning like a ceiling fan on high speed. How can he wrap his head around the fact that he was chosen to wear white and talk to spirits all his life? Mbano, that was never in his plan. He thought long and deep about this and decided to confide in his friend Ebuka, who happens to be a member of some spiritual church that does deliverances. Maybe he might be delivered from the snares of Ezenwanyi, he thought. On that very day, as he got off work, he went to visit his friend Ebuka. He waited outside Ebuka's shop like unpaid salary, so restless. He needed to talk, to offload the weight within his chest, and of course to seek some help as to how to conquer and escape Ezenwanyi. Ebuka, now a successful businessman and a proud member of his spiritual church, graduated from the same mechanic shop where him and Obu learned from. As soon as Ebuka closed from shop, he took Obu to a local joint in the town market and bought him a chilled bottle of beer to relax. But Obu had serious pressing issues he wanted to address before it was too late. My man, thank you for the drink, but I seriously need your help. It is a matter of life and death, Obu lamented. Ebuka's eyes widened like that of a goat caught stealing yam. He nudged Obu to continue that he was listening. There is a pattern in my family, Obu continued quietly, eyes fixed on the ground. One by one, the males die, suddenly and without warning. He went ahead to narrate the whole episode to Ebuka, who kept his mouth open in awe all along. "The chosen one, Kwa," Ebuka exclaimed. "My guy, this thing is really deep," he said in some serious tone. "But you are not alone. I will help you. I want you to come to my church this Saturday. The prophet will tell you what to buy for some sacrifices. Just simple things. And after that, prayers will be made and you'll be free. Trust me." Obu nodded slowly as a small flicker of hope passed through his tired eyes. On the said day, Obu dressed up and went to the church with Ebuka. On getting there, Obu found their pattern a bit strange, but Ebuka encouraged him to relax. After church that day, Ebuka took Obu to his prophet for some personal consultations. The prophet stood tall, dressed in a flowing white robe, so bright it could confuse the sun. Tied firmly around his waist was a thick red rope, like a holy belt of authority, simple yet striking. He had a large black Bible in his right hand and, interestingly, a heavy iron bell in his left. The bell was a tool which he rang slowly as he closes his eyes tightly and responds, "Holy," like someone receiving instructions straight from God's mouth. After listening to Obu and Ebuka, he rang his bell again and began listing some items that Obu needed to gather to make sacrifices and seek answers to know exactly what was wrong with his family. Obu wasted no time in putting together the items, with some borrowed money, of course. He got 1 white fowl, 7 alligator peppers, bottle of olive oil, white handkerchief, 5 bitter cola, 7 coconuts, and a few other things. They returned to the church to present all the items to the priest, and the divination started. He rang his bell with such force that the sound seemed to pierce through heavens. Obu and his friend Ebuka held their breaths and waited. Next, he laid one hand on Obu and shouted, "Jah Jehovah, holy!" He paused to listen to a voice only him seemed to hear and understand. And after what seemed like eternity, he sat down, his gaze steady as he carefully chose his words. "It is in your hands now, Obu," he said, "to free yourself. The answers you seek lie within you, but you must call them forth. You must call the oracle forth and plead your case with her. If your points are solid and valid, she would consider you and free you. It is in your hands now, my son. The Lord be with you." He handed Obu the coconut and bitter cola back and explained how to crack the coconut at midnight, place the cola in front of it, and call forth the oracle. "The spirits will answer," he said, "but remember, only sincerity and purity can open their mouths." Fear gripped Obu as he received these instructions. Right there and then, he knew he wouldn't carry out such midnight operation in his family house. So, he begged Ebuka to crash at his place so as to freely summon the spirits come midnight. Ebuka agreed to this arrangement, of course, and they set a date when it would go down. On the said day, Obu came over to Ebuka's house and they arranged everything, got them ready, and went to sleep. At 12 midnight sharp, Obu felt something tap on his shoulder and he jumped up, fully awake. Behold, it was a beautiful maiden wearing a white robe, her eyes glittering like pure diamond. Obu almost pissed himself. It was as if he was dreaming, yet he was conscious. Ezewanyi spoke first. "Why have you summoned me here?" Obu gathered courage and responded that he wanted to plead with her to exonerate him from her wrath. He started by apologizing for the cruel acts of his forefathers. And then he went ahead to say that it wasn't a fair deal since he, Obu, knows nothing about the promises his forefathers made to her, and so should not be held responsible for the breach in contract. The oracle was not having it. She argued that she, in fact, was the victim here. After much back and forth, she decided to consider him. They reached an agreement that before she would leave his family alone, they would do a proper burial ceremony for her. "Make it big, as if they were burying a king," she commanded. That only then would she be able to rest and leave them alone. The following morning after the incident that night, the most horrible thing had happened. Obu woke up feeling very tired, like someone that went to fight. He tried to wake his friend Ebuka up, but to his utmost surprise and life shock, Ebuka was no longer alive. The oracle took him with her when she came in the night. Obu screamed in anguish, but it was already late. He hurriedly went to see the prophet from Ebuka's church. The prophet was very sad as he heard the news. He followed Obu back to the apartment and tried everything possible to resurrect Ebuka, but he was long gone. Obu reached out to his people and told them that Ebuka had slept and didn't wake up. It was a hard time for Ebuka's family. On Obu's side, he told his mother everything that had happened within the past few days and how they needed to gather money for the festival. Oledo was heartbroken. This reminded her of all she had lost in life, but she was glad they were almost at the tail end of it. After the festival, Obu was in a dream one day and saw when a woman was leaving his family compound with bags of luggage. She then turned and bade him farewell. When he woke up, he was convinced that the oracle had left them alone. And from that point onwards, things started falling in place for him. His business picked up and started booming. He put his younger brothers in school and opened a business for his mother. Moral lessons. Life had been a roller coaster for Ndukakou and his household, just because their forefathers signed a devilish deal they knew nothing about. This alone teaches us to be very careful about how we deal with people today. Generational curses are a thing, and it is of utmost importance we keep our hands straight in our dealings with other people. Also, we have to be in tune with our God and to be very alert in the spirit, so that as children of God, we will be able to know when things are moving wrong and fight it in time. May God help us all. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. Kindly support this channel by clicking the subscribe button. Please, I beg you, subscribe. Thank you so much. And until next time, bye.